SCAREcrow, Sentinel Conservation via Aerial Reconnaissance and Escort.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel, Logically Literate. In this video, we're going to cover the project SCAREcrow that me and Adam Berlier have been working on for the past 6 months. This project, if you haven't seen our last video we posted, albeit a little bit long at 45 minutes, this project is about using drones to help people during a pandemic. This is our submission into the HoverGames 2 competition that finishes up on February 14th of 2021. In this video and the videos to follow, we are going to go over how to set up the SCAREcrow C++ project inside of a Docker container that comes with the SCAREcrow project, as well as show the SCAREcrow application actually running, interacting with the PX4 software in the loop, otherwise known as SIDL, and utilizing Adam's machine learning code that runs the controller of the system. If you're not familiar with the architecture of our system, I strongly suggest you take a look at our wiki page. Here you can see on the screen is our wiki page at this URL here. If you go to my GitHub, which I'll have linked below, and you go to the NXPHoverGames 2 project, you can go ahead and click the wiki here, and you'll be able to see our homepage as well as all the information about our project and our system architecture diagrams. This will give you a better idea of exactly what's happening and the verbiage I use when referring to the parts of the project. So without further ado, we're going to hop down to install dependencies, and we're going to go ahead and get started installing all the dependencies we need. That way we can actually run the Docker container that contains the project, and I'll show you how to execute the project as well. So by the end of this video series on actually running our project, you'll be able to see the project running and working as it should. So without further ado, let's hop into it and let's get started. Okay, so as I said, this is the install dependencies page. You'll notice at the top it just basically gives you some information about what are some rough requirements of the system. We did develop everything in a Windows environment, so this guide is built for Windows. However, with some changes, if you know what you're doing, you can get my development script that executes our Docker to work with Windows, to work with Linux or possibly Mac. Although I've never actually ran Docker personally on Mac, but I know it works. But you'll need to change the script a little bit just to get everything to launch. However, once you're in the container, everything should be the same for the most part. Okay, so for starters, you're going to want to download Xming, CLion. If you prefer a different IDE for C++, go ahead and download that. But for this project, we use CLion. You're going to want to install Docker for Windows on your host machine, this machine here, if you don't already have it. And then you'll want Q ground control so we can connect to the PX4 SIDL and have a ground control view of the drone, as well as Git bash, because Git bash is where I actually launch the bash consoles from that allow us to look into the Docker container. So quick rundown. So Xming is an X server for Windows. Basically all that means is Xming is the software that will show the GUIs that pop up when you run GUI applications inside of the Docker, such as CLion, the PX4 SIDL gazebo simulation, and gedit or anything else that you might use that needs a window, graphical window to pop up. CLion, like I said, is an IDE for C++. That's where we will build and view all of the software. Docker is a containerization software that allows us to create a file that describes an operating system and all the dependencies that are needed for that operating system, and then run that file, build a container, and then execute the container in such a way that we're able to actually run stuff on a different operating system while still using our Windows operating system. It's really nice for development. Q ground control is a ground control station, so it talks Mavlink to our PX4 SIDL, or in an actual case, it talks Mavlink to a PX4 drone or ArduPilot. And then Git bash is just the Git software used, which we'll use to actually retrieve the repository from here, as well as execute commands inside of the Docker container once we execute it. So once you have those downloaded, I have a link here that goes to each of the downloads, but feel free to Google it and find the link yourself if that is better. But go ahead and just click each one of these and it should cause the downloads to happen. So if we do this, it's going to go here and then it's going to take some time to download. But eventually, if you click each one of those, you'll have everyone downloaded. I'm not going to do that because I have them already installed. Just go ahead and click through all of the default installation suggestions for Xming, Docker, qground control, and git bash. For CLion, you'll notice here, we're actually using CLion within the project. So this is the only one that's going to be downloaded as a Linux flavored download. So you'll notice if I click this link, it actually opens up CLion here and it downloads the tar.gz. And that's just a, it's similar to a zip file if you're not familiar with Linux. But it's a tarball is what they call it, and that's basically a zip folder of the CLion IDE. So I'll go ahead and show you a little bit later how to deal with that. But essentially, for now, just download it and stick it in the Docker folder of the project, which you haven't downloaded yet. So we'll get to that next. So go ahead and copy this line here, and once you have git bash installed, you should be able to open up a Windows Explorer into the folder where you want your project to sit. So I have a folder called project files, and I see I have HoverGames 2 here. So all you're going to do is hit git bash, and then you're just going to simply paste that line. Now again, I'm not going to execute it because I've actually already downloaded my project because I wrote the project. But once you have that, you'll have a folder here. Mine says HoverGames 2. If you don't actually put a name after this command, your folder will have this name. Okay, so you should see something like this inside of your folder once you run this command. Now, our wiki is still a work in progress, so as you can see, we have some to-dos here. In the future, we're going to have submodules for various things, so just keep an eye out for those changes, as this video won't encompass those changes, but you can refer back to the wiki here to get all the information. And this video is more of a helper rather than the end-all be-all. Okay, so once we have the repo actually pulled down and all of the dependencies installed here, we can go ahead and run the dev container. And so simply to do that, you're going to open up a PowerShell. Now, I have all of my files installed on my F drive, so I'm going to do F : to switch to my F drive, and I'll just clear this out so we don't have all that mess up there. And then I'm going to navigate to my projects folder. I've already done this, so it's in my history. I want to go to my projects folder /docker. The reason why I /docker is because I have my rundev.sh inside of here. In this video, I won't go into the details of how that works. If you click back to our previous video, the 45-minute long video, in there I show the run development script, and it hasn't changed since then, so it's a pretty accurate depiction of what it is. However, the Docker file has changed, so that might be a little bit different. But anyway, once you're in that folder, all you need to do is run the rundev script command with an absolute path to the root directory. The root directory is the root of the project. So yours is probably going to have this name again if you didn't change the name over here, but I didn't want that name as my name, so I have a different name. So once you run this command, it will complete, and you'll get this window popping up. You'll get a git bash window popping up. We no longer need this window anymore. One thing you can do, though, if you want to have multiple git bash bash windows into the container, you can run this command as many times as you want, and it'll actually find the container if it already exists, utilize it, and then give you a bash prompt into that container. So we can throw this to the side now. So I'm not sure why this takes so long, but for some reason this git bash, it takes a while to actually connect the container or to do the Docker commands or something. Sometimes it's because Docker isn't actually running properly, so we can come down here to our little tool tray here and open up Docker, and you can see it says no containers running. Sometimes if you just start it, it can help the process along. But otherwise, once the windows open up, I'll get back and we can continue. Alrighty, and now the container is turned on and we are inside of its bash script. So you'll notice if I do a uname command, we are now inside of a Linux Docker desktop. So no longer are we in Windows. Okay. So the next step of this process is to set up CLion. I had you install CLion and put it into the Docker directory. So first we'll go to the Docker directory inside of the HoverGames project. You'll notice there is a lowercase, you won't have the uppercase one just yet up here, but there's a lowercase HoverGames that's highlighted green. So this right here is actually a shared directory from Windows. And because it's a shared directory, it has all permissions, which is why it is lit up like crazy. So if we actually look at the permissions of it, you'll notice, well, if we look at the permissions of it, it's got full permissions here. So that's why it looks like it's executable. But what we want to do is go ahead and change directory into there, and you'll see this is just the project, and then we'll change directory into the Docker folder, and you'll see we have a CLion tar file here. Your version's likely to be higher up than my version, but for the sake of this example, this is just fine. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to move this off to the side so it doesn't conflict with my window. Okay, so now what we're going to do is actually untar the file. So again, like I said, you're going to change directory into that Docker folder, and then we're going to just say tar.xf, and then we're going to give it the full name of the file. And again, I won't actually do this because I've already done it. So you'll run that, and it will create a CLion folder like this. Okay. So now we have the CLion folder. The next step is to edit the alias. So the Docker container comes with an alias, and if you don't know what an alias is, basically an alias is just a way to run something with a different name. So like the word alias means, it's giving a fake name to something or another name to something. So basically we have a CLion alias which will call this command. So it executes the clion.sh inside of my CLion path. However, if your version number is not the same as this, you'll need to do the edit alias step. So to edit the alias, as you can see, I've just printed the bash rc here. But instead what you'll want to do is type out vi squiggly /dot bash rc, and that will bring you into here. And then you can just hold page down and that'll take you all the way to the bottom. And then all you're going to do is come over here and use your arrow keys to get to the point where you want to change it. Press the letter I for insert, and then delete the name, change the name to what you want, hit escape, hit colon, write, and then WQ, and that's write and quit, and then hit enter. Because I don't actually want to save this change, I'm going to do Q exclamation point, which is a forced quit, so it doesn't save the file. So now, again, if you want to check, you can just do cat bash rc, verify your version number matches the version number that's actually in your HoverGames Docker directory, and if that is the case, then all you need to do at that point is source it, and that's just going to run it and set that alias. So now our alias is set, and if I come in here like this and I do CLion ampersand, the ampersand puts it in the background so I can still use this console for other things. You notice I can still use it here. At that point, it should start, but you'll notice here it didn't start, and now this is because we don't have Xming running. So now you'll want to come back to Windows and actually double click on your Xming icon, and now it's running. You can tell by seeing down here that there's an icon. So now if we run CLion again, now it's working and you get a pop-up here. And you'll notice it's the icon for Xming. Okay, so at this point we have our development environment running. All of the dependencies should be installed. One last thing that I didn't mention is when you actually execute the Docker container first, it's probably going to take 30 minutes to actually build the Docker container and all of the included dependencies. So make sure you give yourself some time if you're going to replicate this. It's going to take a little while at first, but every subsequent build, given you don't change the Docker file, will be a quick build. So here's C-Line, here's our project. In the next video, I'm actually going to give a quick overview of the project, and then we're going to run an example and see the PX4 CITL and the project all running together. So stay tuned, check out our next video, leave a thumbs up if you like this video, leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and have a nice day, and come back and see us again. Thanks.